Welcome to MGO Bucks. It is a awesome Thursday, and we have a lot to talk about as far as Michigan football goes because they laid an egg this past weekend. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom. Um, you
Sure, it
could
is.
probably, if you were a true blue Michigan fan, you could probably like eke out a silver lining out of that, or a little bit of hope. But that's what we're going to talk about today, and we need to know from everyone: is Michigan season over after you saw the way they got tanked by Oklahoma?
100%.
Is this the year Ohio State finally beats Michigan after 4 years? We need to know. We need to talk about that because now's the time to make those predictions. But Matt, how are you doing? And how did you enjoy that game?
um, I was gonna bet on the game, and I was gonna bet on Michigan, because Oklahoma has just been, like they were terrible last year. But it's the reason why it's so hard sometimes to predict how a school or how a team is going to do the next year when they have in the transfer portal era. Some schools are only getting a couple new recruits, but then you have teams like Oklahoma who they bring in just a whole bunch of new faces, including an actual established quarterback. So it seems to me also one of the sort of underrated things in the transfer portal. Some of the elite teams are just going to stick with their 5-star quarterbacks and ride through that first year or two where they're developing. Like, Ohio State is this year, Michigan is this year, Texas is this year. I mean, honestly, no matter how good Ohio State and Texas are, and we all think they're still like whether you think they can win it all, we still think they're likely top 10 teams. But the teams that are most likely going to win every year are going to be the ones with the established quarterback and also a good team. So like Will Howard was just he wasn't an elite player by any means, but he had a ton of experience in big games, and it's exactly what we needed to get through the playoffs last year. A really, just a guy who's not going to get rattled, someone with a lot of experience, and just, to be able to, and he made a lot of great throws too, but I mean, it was just, you're not going to be winning games with rookie quarterbacks. As much as I'm excited for this Ohio State team, for instance, I just, I'm still very hesitant about, and it's not just the rookie quarterback. I mean, we have a lot of young people like on other positions, um, mostly concerned about defensive line. But I just think no team. It's just pretty rare. Like Clemson did it, and Alabama did it with Tua, and Clemson did it with what's his name, uh, the Jaguars quarterback. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And
I'm leaving you hanging.
unfortunately, it's so incredibly rare for it to actually happen. So I just think that the teams that are really going to do well in the portal era are going to be the ones that have the best team with a good transfer quarterback. I mean, people are just going to because the 5-star quarterback, whether it's Underwood or Sayan or whatever, that's going to cost a lot more money than just a really good quarterback who is he's been in the system for 4 years and it's just very experienced and just knows everything. He's not going to get rattled, and that's going to be not only cheaper, but it's going to be more effective for teams winning playoff games, I think.
Yeah, I think like this game specifically, you could tell. And when I was watching it, I couldn't tell this, but it just looked like Michigan couldn't do anything offensively, and I wasn't sure whose fault that was. And I'm sure there's a lot of blame to go around, but it does. I was actually watching a newer show with Devin Gardner and Jake Butt called the Blueprint, I think it is. They broke down Bryce Underwood in that game, and they showed some serious uh like lack of being able to see the field basically by Bryce Underwood. He he was missing real basic stuff. Like they were showing how Oklahoma was in zero coverage and just had like 8 or 9 guys on the line, and Bryce ran the ball. He went to run the ball instead of throwing a bubble screen. that looked like it was gonna like it would have gone a long ways. He's just missing stuff just from being a freshman. Kind of like
Yeah.
what you were saying. Freshmen are going to be freshmen, but he and I even when I was watching it, I did notice there was a play where Hogan Hansen running down the field completely naked, and
Yeah.
he like Bryce just missed him, and he was
Yep.
in panic mode the whole time. I think I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, we're going to find out, but this could be like doom and gloom for the rest of the season because I know I'm not going to be looking forward to playing at Nebraska or at USC now with this team. But at the same time, if he can, like we missed our tight end. We didn't have our tight end. If Bryce can learn from this game, like we'll see what happens. We'll see if he's like the super freshman that he says he is. After coming out and saying you never seen a freshman like me, and then laying an egg like that, hopefully that hurt and it's making him go out and grind because they're going to need him for this season. And I don't know about, I mean, they could be out of the playoffs in the next like 3 or 4 games, basically,
Yeah.
So we'll see how they respond.
I don't know if I already told you this. I had an argument, of course, with a Michigan fan who was complaining about scheduling hard games like this at a conference, and he was saying, we could have just scheduled 3 easy games. We'd be 3-0, and then he would have had a chance to learn and get better. And instead, now they're already behind the 8 ball because you already have 1 loss. And I was just telling him, I think ultimately this loss, like you never won a loss, but it happened, and the experience is ultimately going to end up helping him a lot more long term than playing Grambling, right? I mean,
Probably.
You're having a tough environment on the road against a team that was a lot better than you, and you didn't win, but you stood in there. He didn't. It's not like he made bad reads, but you learn from that, and it's going to help him this year and next year. And I look at it as you guys are just building your team for next year's run. You're probably going to sign some more really expensive receivers for next year's class to go along with Underwood.
Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams.
This is the year. This is the year he's going to get his experience, and if you can actually get a win against Ohio State and a good bowl win, then the season will be considered a success by most Michigan people.
Oh, already talking about the Ohio State game. He's going to be a grizzled veteran by the time that game comes along.
So will Sayan, though. So
they both will be.
Sayan's also had a year in the system, so he's not as green. He's not as green as Underwood
mentally, for sure. He's ahead. Yeah. He's ahead. But it's interesting because, and then talking about Michigan's defense against Oklahoma, that was ugly. It was so ugly. It was like what Michigan does to other teams. Like, now granted, Mateer ran the ball 19 times. That is a shitload for a quarterback. And they couldn't run the ball with their running backs. It was all Mateer, throwing, running. He was literally the show.
And it reminded me of the Vanderbilt game against Alabama last year. Just like there's no big plays. It's just the quarterback kept running for 5 or 6 yards, and they couldn't stop it.
It's so awesome when it's your team doing that, but it's so miserable when it's happening to your defense.
Michigan hasn't had that kind of offense in a while. You've actually been having, well, last year was just no quarterbacks, but with JJ you had a quarterback who could run, but he was mostly just passing. And Shoelaces was your last true dual threat quarterback.
No, and so Sharon Moore and Jim Harbaugh, they do not like running quarterbacks. I don't think they do. I don't think Bryce is here to run the ball very much. And a lot of people are saying, unleash him. Well, we just saw from Jake Butt and Devin Gardner, you can't unleash him unless he knows what he's doing, because he wasn't even making the basic throws. He wasn't seeing the field. He wasn't making the reads. And he's probably kicking himself when he went back and watched the film to see all that shit. But it's interesting. And speaking back on the defense, though, the defense, it was interesting because Michigan only gave up 24 points. Like, that's it. That's enough to win games if your offense is decent, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a terrible score.
Unless you're playing like an absolutely elite defense 24 should be plenty.
It should be plenty in
against most teams. And I don't think Oklahoma has an elite defense. I don't think they have an elite offense. I think
no, I don't either.
John Mateer should be basically, sending you guys flowers and chocolates every week for the fact that he's like the Heisman favorite now because of that game. Like, he didn't do anything special. He just put up a lot of like yards based on just really dinking and dunking, and the fact that he had a million chances because Michigan could never stop him, and because Michigan had nothing on offense. So he just, their offense was on the field all the time.
Yeah, there's some hope. I mean, there's definitely some hope for Michigan that the offense can turn it around a little bit, because, I mean, Michigan really did play. Like, at the end of the game, Michigan was down by 8 points, had the ball, and I think there was only maybe 5 minutes left. So even in that situation, as bad as it looked, they were in a position to actually go tie the game. Now, granted, they couldn't. I mean, they would have needed a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, and they just absolutely couldn't move the ball. But they also got down into the red zone. 3 times they got in the red zone, Michigan did. 3, and came away with 6 points. And Zavada missed a field goal. Like,
what's going on?
40-something yard field goal he missed. So it was just bad all around. So hopefully they got that out of them and they can actually improve from here.
Yeah.
But it probably gives Buckeyes fans some false hope that this is the year. That's the only solace I'm taking, is because I think Buckeyes, as good as they are right now, might be a little overconfident. Maybe. I don't know. Can you speak
I don't think they're overconfident. I just don't know if the defensive line is good enough. I mean, we let Texas run for a lot of yards. We didn't get as much. Now, I'm not quite as worried about the pass rush against Texas, just because I think that we were trying to mostly contain Arch and not let him run. But, I was, from what I haven't done a deep dive analysis against Grambling, because it's hard to take much against a team that's that overmatched. But still, like, I'm still a little worried about defensive line, especially like, our defensive tackles, just not, aside from Caden McDonald, who is, I think, the highest rated player on defense. Like, he's just an absolute beast. Aside from him, there's just no one else that's doing anything statistically, I guess, and by PFF ratings, if you believe in such things. Like,
and you know what?
Edric Houston was dead last on the whole team, dead last.
Really? Well, so Caden McDonald,
I
was getting his name mixed up with some other guy that has a name close to him. He's a defensive end. What's his name? Caden Curry or something?
Caden Curry? Yeah,
is
Curry's
that it?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's who I thought you were talking about, because you were always singing the praises of, was it McDonald? And so I got those guys mixed up just from the names. So yeah, I'm hearing good things about McDonald, and the Buckeyes absolutely needed that after what they lost last year.
Well, we need someone else to step up. Like, you can't just have one defensive tackle. You need more than one.
That's very true.
I mean, if you look at, like, one of the things I think that really determines if you do well is having a good defensive line. I gotta go a little bit early tonight, though. Do we want to?
You're right. We can end it a little early. Hey, the NFL is playing right now anyway.
Yeah.
Washington versus Green Bay.
I gotta go, though.
All right, we'll end it early. But thanks, everyone. We'll talk more, and please like and subscribe, and talk later.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.